Did you know you can catch me and Ryan, the Real Truth Guy, every weekday at 3 p.m. Pacific time on twitch.tv/Treesicle? We've been pretty quiet about our Twitch streams lately, but no longer. We stream at 3 p.m. Pacific time every weekday, and if you missed a stream or just want to check out the fully edited ones with multiple camera angles, then just go to youtube.com/Streamsicle, or there'll be a link at the end of the video, and also in the description. We post there 5 days a week too, so you can get even more Treesicle goodness. Alright, let's get into the video. What is happiness? And is it a choice? Those are the main questions We Happy Few attempts to answer. And they drove me nuttier than a crumpet faffing about on a bonnet. Confused. Me too. We Happy Few is... well, I guess it's supposed to be a British dystopian future that disjoints from our timeline right around World War II. But it's really more of a Harry Potter fanfic mixed with the Matrix. I mean, there's Arthurs and Percys and Ollies combined with pills of different flavors and every stereotypical British bumbling you could possibly think of. But to cut to the chase, this game revolves around the setting of a Europe that lost the Battle of Britain, was occupied by the Nazis, and yet the citizens of the island town of Wellington Wells were able to remain free of occupation. They achieved this by doing what is dubbed the very bad thing, which leads into the main plot line of the story. The residents of the town are so upset and burdened by their guilt and the repercussions of the very bad thing that they invented a new hallucinogenic drug called joy. Joy creates a chemically induced euphoria that changes the user's entire perspective of life and their surroundings. You might think this is impossible, but in actuality there are many real-life substances that can have similar effects on the mind. Antidepressants are just one example of people using a drug to see the world from a different perspective. Hallucinogens have also been recorded to have mood-altering and, more intense effects. Joy, however, seems to align most with a substance that's name is best seen from the first letters of the following phrase. My dog motorizes accounting. The letters. It's the active ingredient in a drug that rhymes with Bextasy. Okay. It creates euphoric feelings, interpersonal connects, and a trusting nature by the taker. Unlike this real-world substance, however, joy can literally change what the user sees. The perfect example being this extremely squishy piñata, which turned out to be an extremely dead rat. And it's this idea of a pill that can literally change how you perceive life that I want to talk about. The concept of whether or not artificial happiness is useful, especially when compared to organic happiness. Should we, like the citizens of Wellington Wells, think of using artificial happiness as a way to deal with our problems, get through life, and overall just be happier? Would you be willing to pop a pill and transport yourself to a happier version of life and yourself? Would you do it forever? Let's find out. Now, when we talk about artificial happiness, what we're really talking about is a chemical effect brought on by a drug in the brain. However, we don't have joy in real life, but we do have this bundle of letters, which I'm going to be using for the rest of this video because it's the closest thing we have in real life. Assuming it works in a somewhat similar way to mudma, joy is essentially unleashing a gobby amount of serotonin and dopamine into everyone's brains, making them more carefree, happy, and empathetic, and generally stoked on the world around them. Serotonin controls many things in our brains, specifically appetite, sleep, memory, and mood. So if you're familiar with the game, it won't come as a surprise to you that joy definitely affects the serotonin of our protagonists. Considering joy actually helps them seem happy, not get hungry, and of course serves to make them forget the very bad thing, it's actually quite similar to how mudma can affect your brain IRL. But in our less cool and totally real world, if you continue to take a substance like this, it'll cause horrible side effects as you deplete your serotonin pool and figuratively puncture holes in your brain. So here's how serotonin works. When certain things happen in your life, serotonin is released into your synapses and then attaches to your receptors to make you feel happiness. Fall in love? Here's some serotonin. Get a cool present? Your real present is serotonin. Like to masturbate? It's 'cause you're splooging serotonin.
don't know what you're talking about.
Basically, think of your neural receptors as the gate guardian from Yu-Gi-Oh! It lets some serotonin out, but not too much. It guards your neural receptors. When someone takes a drug like Joy, it's the heart of the card's equivalent to using the multiply card with Karibo. Gate Guardian just can't control that much serotonin, so your receptors get flooded with happiness juice, making you feel extremely euphoric. However, you only have a limited amount of serotonin, so flooding your receptors like that leaves you with less serotonin than you should have at the end of your happiness trip. The come down can create intense feelings of sadness, depression, and hopelessness because now you're lacking that very chemical, not because anything external is actually wrong. Basically, when raving on Saturday, be wary of Suicide Tuesday, when everything feels boggy and even your Wazok dog is making you miffed. It's the lack of serotonin. However, our Wellington friends seem to use Joy over and over and over again without any ill effects. And since this is a fantasy world, I can only assume that the pill somehow must refill their serotonin deposits. Otherwise, they would have run out of happiness juice a long time ago. Or the drug would have stopped having such a significant effect. Everyone would have become tolerant to it. In real life, this certainly isn't possible, especially with my dog motorizes accounting, cause too much of that will fuck you up. But in We Happy Few land, Joy doesn't have the obvious physical dangers of IRL substances. And that brings us back to the question of whether or not artificial happiness is actually useful. If we could take a drug that makes us happy without destroying our brain, should we? Well, if you play through the whole game, the answer is obviously no. But they're also taking it to literally forget what happened and their own choices. It's essentially a way to chemically run away from your problems. And anytime someone is running from their life, it's probably not a great idea to add drugs to that mix. However, if people are not trying to run away from their problems and instead are looking to confront them with drugs, well, that's a different story. Multiple studies have actually been done, and they show that in smaller doses, used few and far between, Mudma can be very effectively used to combat issues like post-traumatic stress disorder and depression. In fact, the drug was originally created as an antidepressant pill. The basic idea of these studies was to use this substance in controlled doses to combat difficult-to-treat psychological conditions. It has been used with over 1,000 human subjects without a single serious adverse effect. In short, the citizens of Wellington Wells created a super drug, but are using it in the wrong way. They have something resembling post-traumatic stress disorder, something they can't bring themselves to remember. And instead of dealing with it, they put themselves in a sort of perpetual happiness coma. Joy could be used to help the entire town get over the very bad thing. Just like its real-life counterpart, it creates a sense of interpersonal trust and allows the user to look at their life from a different lens. Wellington Wells is using that lens to continually impact the present, when in reality, what they need to be doing is looking into the past, forgiving their past sins, and finding a way to heal. Artificial happiness isn't the same as organic happiness. Just look at the way Arthur walks when he's on Joy. How things look when on Joy. It's not reality, and straying away from reality for too long isn't good for anyone. But having that glowy lens to look through past grievances, feeling a connection to one's former self, and forgiving, that is being used as a powerful tool in our real world. It's something that's saving people from their own horrors and wrongdoings and allowing people to start over, or at least start on the path to healing. So, knowing what you know now, what do you think about Joy? It's given a pretty bad rap in the game, but from the very first scene to the very last one in Arthur's storyline, he's given a choice of whether or not to take it. It's much more complicated than just say no. It's a balance between understanding when a drug can be helpful to someone's life or when it can be destructive. And if something artificial can allow someone to change their entire life, then maybe artificial happiness does have a place in our world. It's something to think about, don't you think? Anyway, that's what I wanted to talk about today. I know this was shorter and a little more obscure than you're used to, but I hope you enjoyed it. This game just really got my mind going about the concept of artificial happiness and whether or not it has a place in the game, and of course, more importantly, our world. Also, I really recommend checking out Treesicle if you haven't. Those videos just keep getting better and better, and I would know. I was there, and I still watch them. I lived the part. That's it for me today. I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye!